No, no, that's Mama. The scream tore out of Johnson's throat before he even knew it was his own. It wasn't a question. It was a statement. Raw, certain, terrifying. The driver slammed the brakes. The black SUV screeched slightly as it skidded to the side of the dusty road on the outskirts of Ashy. A cloud of orange sand swirled past the windshield. The driver turned sharply, eyes wide in the rearview mirror. Sir? What is it? What's wrong? But Johnson didn't answer. He was already unbuckling, already leaning forward, already pressing his palm against the glass, as if that could change what he saw. There, barely 20 meters ahead, was a rusted, squeaky wheelbarrow. Inside it, if one could even call it sitting, was an old woman slumped to the side like her bones had given up on holding her. Her wrapper was dirty, her feet bare, her gray hair wild and tangled like a nest that had been abandoned by hope. Her eyes fluttered, half open, like she wasn't really here anymore. And pushing her was a boy. Thin, worn, no older than 20. He looked like life had been chewing on him since birth. His slippers flopped against the dust with every step. His shirt, too big and too faded, hung like a curtain on his small frame. Johnson's breath caught. His finger hit the window button. It hissed down slowly, too slowly. Mama, he shouted through the open glass. The boy flinched in surprise. His hands froze on the wheelbarrow's wooden handles. The metal contraption jerked sideways. The old woman wobbled dangerously. Johnson didn't wait. He pushed the door open, nearly knocking it off its hinges, and sprinted toward them. His voice cracked as he called out again. Mama, please, please look at me. He dropped to his knees beside the wheelbarrow, reaching out with both hands to steady her. Her skin was cold. Too cold. Her breathing shallow. Her lips were dry like paper left too long in the sun. Behind him, the SUV door slammed. The driver came running. The boy stared at Johnson, wide-eyed, confused. Sir, do you know her? Johnson looked up sharply. His face was wet, though he hadn't realized he'd started crying. Know her, he croaked. She's my mother. The words made the world spin. This was the woman he'd been searching for 6 agonizing days. The woman who'd disappeared from the family driver's car in broad daylight, who never made it home. The one the police said they still had no updates about. And now here she was, fragile as dust, in a stranger's wheelbarrow. He gently cupped her cheeks. Mama, can you hear me? It's me, Johnson. Her eyelids fluttered. Her lips parted, but there was no sound. Johnson turned to the boy. Where did you find her? The boy swallowed hard. My name is Benjamin, sir. I found her 2 days ago by the roadside. She was lying there. Couldn't move. No one stopped. People passed like she wasn't there. He looked away, ashamed. I couldn't leave her like that. Johnson's chest tightened. So, I used my wheelbarrow to take her to my place. I gave her water, some food. She didn't remember her name, didn't know where she came from. And today, I was going to take her to the police station. Maybe someone would recognize her face. Johnson could barely process it. This boy, this poor, barefoot stranger, had done what trained officers in private security couldn't. You helped her, Johnson whispered. Benjamin nodded. Yes, sir. I did what I could. Johnson stood, wiped his face, then turned to the driver. Help me lift her. We're going to the hospital. Then he faced Benjamin. You're coming with us. Benjamin hesitated. Sir, I don't belong in that kind of car. Look at me. I said get in, Johnson snapped. You carried my mother when nobody else would. I'm not leaving you here. Benjamin looked down at his mud-streaked slippers, his torn shirt, his hands that looked older than his face. But slowly, awkwardly, he climbed into the SUV. Inside, he sat on the edge of the seat, stiff and quiet, afraid to touch anything. Johnson cradled his mother in his arms. She looked smaller than he remembered. Her breath came in weak intervals, like it took too much effort to stay alive. He whispered into her hair, You're safe now, Mama. I've got you. But even as he spoke, her head lolled sideways. Mama, he whispered. Her lips moved. Nothing came out. Benjamin leaned closer. Sir, she's not breathing. Johnson's heart stopped. No, no, please. Benjamin pressed his fingers to her wrist. Sir, I can't feel her pulse. The driver stepped on the gas. The SUV roared through traffic, horn blaring. Johnson rocked his mother gently. Mama, stay with me. Stay with me, please. She didn't move. When they reached the hospital, Johnson kicked the door open and ran through the entrance, his mother in his arms. Help! Somebody help! His voice broke into pieces. Nurses looked up. One of them gasped. Another hit the emergency button. A stretcher came. They took her from him. Sir, please. You need to wait here. No. Johnson tried to follow. A doctor stepped in his way. We'll take care of her. You must wait outside. The emergency doors shut. The red light above them flicked on. Johnson stood frozen. Then his knees buckled. He sank to the floor, shaking. Across from him, Benjamin stood like a statue. His hands still carried the weight of the wheelbarrow handle. His stomach growled, but he ignored it. He had nowhere to go. So he stayed. After what felt like an hour, a nurse appeared. She's stable, she said. Johnson shot to his feet. Can I see her? Just for a moment. Inside the room, machines beeped rhythmically. Oxygen hissed through thin plastic tubes. Madame Teresa lay still, but her chest rose. She was alive. Johnson sat beside her and held her hand. Mama, I'm here. Benjamin stood by the door, silent, until something amazing happened. Her fingers twitched. Then her eyes opened. She looked around slowly. Her gaze found Johnson. My son, she whispered. Johnson bent forward, crying. Oh, Mama, you scared me. Her eyes shifted again. They found Benjamin. You helped me. Benjamin stepped forward slowly. Yes, Mom. I couldn't leave you. Her hand reached out. He took it gently. Thank you, my child, she said. You gave me a second chance. The boy froze. His throat closed. No one had ever called him that. No one had thanked him for anything. Then, the machine beside the bed let out a sharp, urgent beep. Madame Teresa gasped. Her body jerked. Mama! Johnson shouted. Nurses rushed in. A doctor followed. Alarms blared. Benjamin backed against the wall, trembling. The monitor screamed. A nurse shouted, Code Blue. Johnson fell to his knees. Please, not like this. Not again. Benjamin whispered, Mom, please. Come back. One more time. The doctor tried once. Nothing. Tried again. Still nothing. Silence filled the room. Then, beep, beep. A heartbeat. Faint, but alive. Johnson sobbed into his palms. Benjamin exhaled, breathless. Madame Teresa had come back again. But none of them knew she might not stay. The emergency doors finally closed behind the stretcher, and silence filled the hallway like thick fog. Johnson stood frozen in place, his chest rising and falling too fast, his fists clenched so tightly that his nails dug into his palms. His mother was somewhere behind those doors, fighting for her life. And he could do nothing. Across the corridor, Benjamin sat motionless on a hard plastic bench. He looked out of place in every possible way. His shirt was stained with sweat and dust. His slippers sagged at the edges. His arms were crossed tightly over his chest, not in comfort, but in shame. He didn't know where to look. His stomach growled softly, but he stayed silent. He had no home to return to, no one waiting for him. Just the image of the old woman lying in that wheelbarrow, whispering for water, calling out for someone, anyone who might stop and help. He was the only one who did. Johnson dropped into the seat beside him. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, face in his hands. His voice was quiet. She hasn't been this sick since my father died. Benjamin didn't answer. He didn't know how. They sat in silence for long minutes. Then Johnson spoke again. You haven't eaten today, have you? Benjamin glanced up, startled. I'm fine, sir. That wasn't the question. Benjamin shrugged. It's not the worst day I've had. Johnson turned to look at him. There was something in the boy's tone. Not defiance, not pride, just cold, tired truth. How old are you? He asked. 18. Johnson blinked. He looked older, like life had added 10 years to his face. What are you doing in Oshodi pushing a wheelbarrow? Benjamin hesitated. No one had asked him that before. No one had cared enough to ask. But something about Johnson's voice made him want to answer. My parents disappeared, he said quietly. When I was 16, they went to the market one evening and never came back. Johnson straightened. Disappeared? As in kidnapped? No one knows. Police searched. Neighbors talked. Then everyone moved on. His voice didn't crack. It was too used to telling that part. After a week, our landlord kicked me out. I had no money, no relatives. I slept in a corner of the market for a while. Someone gave me a wheelbarrow. That became my bed, my job, my everything. Johnson felt something sharp twist in his chest. I used to be the best student in school, Benjamin added, almost like it was a memory from another lifetime. Science especially. Biology, chemistry. My principal said I'd get a scholarship someday. But after my parents disappeared, everything stopped. He rubbed his fingers together, a nervous habit that hadn't gone away. I pushed things. For anyone. Bags of rice. Cans of paint. Anything people didn't want to carry themselves. Do you eat every day? Johnson asked quietly. Some days. Most days, no. But I don't complain. Complaining doesn't feed you. Silence stretched again. Then Johnson whispered, and still you helped her. Benjamin looked down. I couldn't walk past her. She looked like someone's mother. She was mine. Their eyes met. You didn't know who she was. You didn't know if she had a family. You didn't even know if she was dying. And still you stayed. I had nothing else to offer, Benjamin said. But I knew she needed someone. The hallway lights buzzed above them. Somewhere down the corridor, a nurse passed, wheeling a cart of clean sheets. The world continued, indifferent. Then the emergency doors clicked open. Johnson shot to his feet. A nurse stepped out, her expression tense but composed. She's stable, she said. For now. He exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for a lifetime. Can I see her? Just for a few minutes. They entered the ICU room together. The beeping of machines filled the air. Madame Teresa lay on the bed, an oxygen tube in her nose, her chest rising and falling faintly. She looked even smaller now, swallowed up by white sheets and wires. Johnson walked to her side. He took her hand and knelt beside the bed. "Mama," he whispered, "it's me. I found you." Her fingers twitched. Her eyes blinked open, slow as molasses. She turned her head, weakly. "Son," she whispered, a voice like the rustle of leaves in dry season. Johnson broke. "Mama, you scared me. I thought I lost you." She gave the tiniest smile. Then her eyes shifted. They found Benjamin standing awkwardly near the doorway. She stared at him for a long time, confused, then remembering. You helped me." Benjamin took a hesitant step forward. "Yes, Mom. I couldn't leave you." Her hand reached out, trembling. He moved forward and took it gently. "Thank you, my child," she said. "You gave me a second chance." No one had called him that in 2 years. Not since the night his world disappeared. He bowed his head. "Thank you, Mom." The room held its breath. Then the monitor beeped, once sharply. Johnson looked up. The nurse frowned. "Her oxygen is dropping." Benjamin stepped back. "What's happening?" Johnson asked. "She's in distress," the nurse said quickly. "I'll get the doctor." But the air had already shifted. Something was wrong. Madame Therese's breathing quickened. Her eyelids fluttered. "Mama," Johnson said sharply. "Stay with me." Benjamin moved closer, but her hand slipped from his. Her eyes rolled back. "No, no, no," Johnson gasped. The monitor screamed. The nurse shouted, "Code blue." A team of medics rushed in. Johnson was pulled away. Benjamin backed into the wall, tears falling freely now. He had promised her she'd be safe. He had promised. The doctor arrived and took over. Charging. Clear. Her body jumped. Nothing. Again. Another jolt. Still nothing. Johnson dropped to his knees. "Please, Mama. Not like this. Don't go like this." Benjamin stepped forward, unable to stop himself. He placed his hand on her foot, the only part left untouched by wires. "You fought through the cold. You fought through hunger. Please just fight a little more." The nurse moved to pull him back, but the doctor stopped her. "Let him talk." The room stilled. "You call me your child," Benjamin whispered. "And I believed you. Don't go. Please. I'm not ready." Then a twitch. The monitor beeped. Once. Then again. A heartbeat. Weak. But there. Johnson collapsed onto the floor in relief. Benjamin covered his face, shaking. "She's back," the doctor said. "Barely. But she's back." They moved quickly. More wires, new meds, tighter monitoring. She was alive. Again. Johnson sat beside her bed, not letting go of her hand. Benjamin remained in the corner, wide awake, still trembling. The nurse turned to Johnson. She needs complete rest. Her body's fragile. She could crash again at any moment. Johnson nodded, tears still drying on his face. He turned to Benjamin. You haven't said much. I don't want her to die, the boy said. She's the first person who made me feel seen. Johnson's voice was low. She sees you because you saved her. Benjamin looked away, uncertain what to do with praise. Then Johnson said something he hadn't said in years. You saved her. And now, maybe it's time someone saved you. The words hung in the air, heavy. Then behind them, the nurse stepped in again. This time her face was pale. Sir, the doctor needs you both. Johnson stood. What's wrong? She hesitated. It's urgent. Benjamin's stomach dropped. What happened? Please, the nurse said. Come now. She turned and began walking quickly down the hallway. Johnson and Benjamin followed. Behind them, Madame Teresa lay breathing, barely, as the machines continued their steady beep. But somewhere ahead, something darker was waiting, and neither of them was ready for it. The hallway had never felt so long. Johnson's shoes echoed sharply against the tiles as he and Benjamin followed the nurse through a maze of quiet corridors. The air was too cold, the lights too bright. Something was wrong, the kind of wrong that settled in your chest before words even touched it. What's happened? Johnson asked, his voice hoarse. The nurse didn't turn. The doctor will explain. Benjamin's heart hammered. His legs moved on their own. He didn't want to arrive. He didn't want to hear what was waiting. But he couldn't stop. Finally, they reached the small consultation room beside the ICU. The doctor stood near a computer screen, two nurses behind him. His face was tight, controlled, but not calm. He turned slowly when they entered. Sir, he said to Johnson, we need to talk. Johnson's stomach clenched. Is she alive? Yes. For now. For now. The doctor gestured to the screen. We ran a scan after her last collapse. Something unexpected came up. Benjamin stepped closer, his breath catching. What is it? Johnson asked, moving beside the screen. The doctor pointed to a black and white brain image. There's an old blood clot. Small but dangerous. It was hidden behind unstable vitals. We didn't catch it earlier. Now it's growing. Benjamin's body went cold. Johnson swallowed hard. What does that mean? It means, the doctor said slowly, that if it grows any further, your mother could slip into a coma. Or worse. Silence slammed into the room. Can't you remove it? Johnson asked. The doctor nodded. We can, but not easily. It's lodged deep, near the memory center. Delicate. At her age, any mistake could be fatal. But it's possible. Yes, with the right hands. What does that mean? The doctor's voice dropped. We need a neurosurgeon. Not just a good one, the best. Someone who's done this before. Many times. Isn't this one of the best hospitals in Lagos? It is, the doctor said. But the surgeon we need isn't here. He's across the city. He's been contacted. He's on his way. Benjamin's voice broke in. How long will it take? A few hours. Johnson stepped back, nearly stumbling. She doesn't have a few hours. I know. The doctor didn't offer comfort. There wasn't any. Johnson sat down hard on the nearest chair. His head fell into his hands. I can't lose her. Not again. Not after everything. Benjamin looked at the screen again. He stared at the spot where the clot was marked. He didn't know why he was drawn to it. No, he did. He knew what it was. What it meant. He had studied this. Not in any hospital. Not in real life. But in school. Back when life was still full of possibility. He remembered the drawings, the models, the way his teachers spoke about brain circulation like it was music. That was before his world collapsed. His hands shook. He could barely speak, but he did. Sir, he whispered. I think I can help. The doctor turned, confused. What? I know what that clot is. I know how it cuts oxygen. I know the symptoms. Confusion. Memory lapses. Rapid collapse. The doctor's eyes narrowed. You've studied medicine? No, not formally. But I learned. In school. Before everything. Johnson stared at him. Benjamin. The boy kept talking, fast, desperate. I know I can't operate. I know I'm not a doctor. But I can help monitor. I know how to read those machines. I've seen the diagrams. I can track her oxygen. Her pulse. I can help keep her alive until the surgeon gets here. Benjamin. This is surgery, the doctor said gently. This is a life on the line. I know that, but I've already helped her stay alive. You saw me adjust the oxygen tube earlier. You saw it work. The room fell silent. The doctor looked at Johnson. He's right, Johnson said quietly. He saved her. Twice. I can't touch her brain, Benjamin added. I won't. Just let me help keep her body stable. Please. The doctor studied him, really looked at him, his too thin frame, his trembling hands, but also his eyes. Bright, desperate, fierce. Finally, he nodded. Okay, you can assist. Stand beside me. No mistakes. Benjamin blinked. You mean it? You're not touching the patient. But yes, I need someone with steady hands. And right now, I need all the help I can get. Benjamin stepped forward, heart pounding. Johnson placed a hand on his shoulder. You've got this. They returned to the ICU room. Madame Therese's breathing was shallow again. Her skin pale. Her pulses dropping, a nurse said. The doctor moved fast. We're not losing her. Not now. Benjamin, stay sharp. Watch the oxygen levels. Tell me if anything changes. Yes, sir. The boy stood at the monitor, eyes locked on the numbers. His fingers hovered over the valves. The doctor began adjustments. Nurses ran around them. Suddenly, a drop. Doctor, Benjamin shouted. Oxygen just fell 3 points. Adjust valve B. Now. Benjamin did. Fast. Smooth. The numbers steadied. Good. Again. For the next 20 minutes, Benjamin tracked every dip, every change, every sound. He didn't flinch. He didn't blink. His mind was on fire, alive in a way it hadn't been in years. Then, a voice from the hallway. Where's the patient? The surgeon had arrived. A tall man in green scrubs swept into the room. His hands were already gloved. Vitals, he barked. Unstable, but responsive, the doctor said. We've been holding the line. The surgeon looked at Benjamin. You. What's your name? Benjamin. You're not staff. No, sir. The man blinked. But your hands are steady. You got a quick eye. Benjamin froze. Yes, sir, he whispered. You're assisting. Benjamin's heart skipped. Johnson stood near the door, watching the moment like a dream. His mother lay between life and death. And next to her stood a boy with no medical license, no training, but a heart full of fire and a mind like lightning. The surgeon turned to his team. Prep now. We're going in. Benjamin wiped his palms on his trousers. He stood straighter. He wasn't a doctor. Not yet. But in that moment, he was her lifeline, and he would not let her go. The operating room pulsed with tension. Bright surgical lights glared down on Madame Therese's motionless body. Beeping monitors tracked every breath, every heartbeat. Nurses moved with precision, their faces tight with concentration. The neurosurgeon stood at the head of the table, calm but focused, a man who knew too well the weight of a single wrong move. And next to him, trembling but standing tall, was Benjamin. His chest rose and fell with shallow, careful breaths. A surgical cap covered his curls. Gloves hugged his fingers. He didn't dare speak. He didn't dare look away. He didn't have a certificate. He didn't have a degree. But he had everything else. Instinct, memory, hunger for meaning, and a reason to savor that burned hotter than any textbook ever could. The surgeon glanced at him once. You understand what I ask? You do it. No hesitation. No panic. Yes, sir. Good. We begin. Time bent in that room. The surgeon's hands moved like poetry. Delicate. Calculated. The kind of steadiness only years of failure and triumph could teach. But it wasn't enough to work alone. He needed eyes. Fast fingers. Someone to read the rhythm of the machines before they changed. That was Benjamin. Pulse rising, he said quietly. Adjust line C. Done. Oxygen stable. Maintain it. At one point, a nurse's hand shook too much while passing a clamp. Benjamin reached forward and caught it midair. Quick. Precise. The surgeon raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. They were halfway through when a complication struck. She's bleeding more than expected, the doctor muttered. Clot's larger than we thought. He adjusted his position. Pressure's dropping, Benjamin said quickly. Clamp. Now. Benjamin passed it. Fast. Smooth. Good. Suction. The nurse moved too slow. I've got it, Benjamin said. The surgeon didn't argue. Hold there. Steady. Johnson, watching from the gallery window above, gripped the railing. His palms were sweating. His heart slammed against his ribs like it was trying to break free. But what stunned him most wasn't the blood. It wasn't the danger. It was Benjamin, the boy he found on the side of the road. The boy with torn slippers and no parents. The boy who was now assisting in brain surgery. God, he whispered. What did we almost lose? Below, Benjamin moved like someone born for this. His eyes flicked between monitors, tools, the patient. When the beeping dipped, he spoke. When the surgeon needed something, he already had it in hand. No hesitation, no fear, just focus. It wasn't just skill, it was purpose, as if something inside him had clicked into place after years of being broken. And then, 3 hours in, it happened. The clot was removed. The bleeding stopped. The monitors stabilized. She's clear, the surgeon said, stepping back. A long, relieved breath swept through the room. Benjamin's legs nearly gave out. The surgeon peeled off his gloves. He looked at the boy, eyes unreadable. You're not just smart, he said. You're sharp. You see what most miss. Benjamin stared at him, breathless. You don't belong on the street, the man added. You belong here. Benjamin nodded, but couldn't speak. Because for the first time in years, someone had told him where he belonged. They wheeled Madame Teresa into recovery. She was unconscious, but her face was peaceful. Her chest rose evenly. The machines no longer screamed. The danger had passed, at least for now. Johnson rushed to her side. He gripped her hand, crying softly. You made it, Mama. You fought through. He looked up at Benjamin. Words didn't come immediately. He just pulled him into a hug. You saved her, Johnson whispered. You saved her again. Benjamin didn't hug back at first. He didn't know how, but slowly his arms lifted. And for the first time in what felt like forever, he let someone hold him. 2 weeks later, the hospital garden was quiet. Madame Teresa sat in a wheelchair beneath the shade of a mango tree, a blanket across her legs. Her face was brighter now, her hands stronger. The lines on her face had softened. Benjamin knelt in front of her, smiling. You look stronger, he said. I feel stronger, she replied. Then, gently, she reached forward and cupped his face. My child, she whispered. You brought me back. From darkness. Benjamin looked down, suddenly shy. I just did what was right. She smiled. The world forgot about me. But you didn't. I couldn't walk past you. Her voice trembled. You gave me a second life. Benjamin shook his head. You gave me something first. What's that? A reason to keep going. From a distance, Johnson watched them. Arms folded, eyes filled with something heavy and grateful. Later that day, back at Johnson's family home, a quiet mansion surrounded by flowering trees, he invited Benjamin inside for the first time. The boy walked slowly across the marble floors, awkward in his clean borrowed shirt, unsure if he should speak or breathe. Johnson led him to the library, a grand room lined with towering bookshelves and soft lamps. Sit, he said. Benjamin obeyed. You saved my mother. You stayed when no one else did. You've shown courage, humility, brilliance. He paused. I owe you more than thanks. Benjamin sat silently. So Johnson continued. I want to sponsor your education. Fully. Anything you need. I'll make the calls. I'll pay the fees. You'll study medicine properly. Benjamin's eyes widened. I don't understand. You shouldn't be pushing wheelbarrows. You should be in an operating room. Like today. Benjamin's throat tightened. You mean it? Johnson stepped forward. You deserve a future. You gave my mother one. Let us give one to you. Benjamin stood slowly, tears filling his eyes. Thank you, sir, he whispered. I won't waste it. Just then, a soft voice came from the doorway. It was Madame Teresa, standing with help from a cane. Her eyes were glassy with tears. That boy, she said softly. He didn't just save my life. He reminded me why it was worth saving. She walked forward, slowly. Benjamin. He turned to her, stunned. She opened her arms. My child, she said, and he stepped into her embrace. This time, he didn't hesitate. He belonged. But just as warmth settled in, a nurse appeared in the doorway. Her face pale. Sir, you're needed at the hospital. Johnson turned. Why? What happened? It's urgent, she said. The head surgeon collapsed. What? He's stable for now, but we need someone qualified to manage the upcoming emergency case until another senior arrives." She turned to Benjamin. He said if anything happened, to call for you. Benjamin froze. "Me?" The nurse nodded. He said, "That boy, he's not just gifted. He's ready." Benjamin stood at the doorway of the hospital ward, still wearing his borrowed shirt from Johnson's house. His heart pounded as the nurse's words echoed again in his ears. The head surgeon collapsed. "He told us, if anything ever happened, call for you." For a moment, Benjamin couldn't breathe. Not because he didn't believe in himself, but because he was afraid others might not. He wasn't a doctor, not officially. Not yet. He didn't have a certificate or a license. He didn't even have proper shoes. But then Johnson stepped forward, placed a firm hand on his shoulder, and said, "He saw you, Benjamin. We all did. You saved lives without permission. Now you have mine." Benjamin looked at Madame Teresa's photo on the hospital's honor wall. He nodded and walked inside. The patient was young, a boy no older than 8, having seizures from sudden brain inflammation. The nurse looked at Benjamin like she wanted to question his presence, but the urgency on his face was louder than any protest. "What's his pulse?" Benjamin asked, stepping forward with calm precision. "Erratic, dropping fast. Let's keep him breathing first. Oxygen mask, adjust the valve, monitor the pressure closely." "You're taking charge?" the nurse asked, surprised. "I'm not replacing the surgeon," Benjamin said, "but I'm not letting this boy die either." For the next 20 minutes, Benjamin stabilized the child with the help of 2 experienced nurses. He didn't open a skull. He didn't use a scalpel. He didn't break any rules. He just refused to back away. And when a replacement surgeon arrived and took over, the child's vitals were already normalizing. "You did everything right," the surgeon said afterward. Benjamin only nodded. He didn't need applause. 2 years later, the auditorium at the University of Lagos overflowed with applause as names were read aloud. It was the graduation ceremony of the medical school's most promising class in years. Benjamin Chibundu stood near the back, wearing his white coat, a proud smile on his face as he watched a group of students receive their diplomas. These were his students, people he had mentored, young minds he had guided through sleepless nights and impossible exams. A few of them had once walked into his hospital as frightened interns. Now they were stepping into the world as real doctors. But Benjamin hadn't come for celebration today. He had come to speak. When the microphone was handed to him, and the crowd hushed, he took the stage with the same quiet strength he had learned from years of surviving. "I wasn't always in a coat," he said. "I didn't always stand in hospital halls or lecture theaters. I used to sleep in a wheelbarrow, not beside it, in it. I pushed loads to buy food. I had no address, no parents, no future." He paused. "Until one day, I stopped on a dusty road and helped a woman who had fallen. She didn't know who I was, but she said 2 words I hadn't heard in years, 'My child,' and that changed everything." The auditorium was silent. "You don't need to be a doctor to save a life," he continued. "But if you have the chance, don't waste it." He left the stage to a standing ovation. A few months later, the doors of a new medical center opened in the heart of Lagos. The building was clean and bright. Its sign read, "The Teresa Foundation Medical Center," founded by Dr. Benjamin Chibundu. The mission was simple: no patient turned away for lack of money. Johnson stood beside Benjamin at the opening ceremony. He said few words, but he didn't need to. The pride in his eyes said more than speeches ever could. Madame Teresa, now older and slower, but stronger than ever, cut the ribbon herself. "This is what kindness builds," she said. "This is what happens when someone chooses to see the invisible." Benjamin held her hand the whole time. One rainy evening, Benjamin returned to Oshodi alone. He walked past the same corner where he had once found her, the woman the world walked past. The road hadn't changed much. Still dusty, still loud. But Benjamin had. He knelt beside the spot where he once knelt beside her, closed his eyes, and whispered, "This is where my life began." He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out something old, a rusty key from the original wheelbarrow. He placed it on the ground like an offering, then stood and walked back into the world he had built, not for money or luck, but from a single decision to stop and help someone others had ignored. 10 years later, Benjamin was now one of the most respected neurosurgeons in the country. His hospital had expanded to 2 more cities. He had trained hundreds of doctors, performed thousands of surgeries, and spoken on stages across the continent. But he still visited the children's ward every weekend. He still carried his own stethoscope. And he still kept that photo, the one of a tired old woman in a wheelbarrow and a nameless boy behind her, hanging in every hospital lobby. When asked why he never took it down, his answer was always the same. Because that boy never left me. He's the reason I never forget what it's like to be powerless. And what happens when one person, just one, decides to care. On the day of his honorary doctorate, Benjamin stood at the podium, gray now at the temples, but eyes as clear and fierce as they were the day he first held a pulse monitor. The room was filled with dignitaries, doctors, diplomats. But he looked for one person. She sat in the front row, cane in her lap, a silk scarf around her shoulders, and a tear already slipping down her cheek. When he received the honorary scroll, he didn't raise it toward the cameras or the officials. He turned to her and bowed, then walked off the stage and placed it gently in her lap. "For you, Mama," he whispered, "for that second chance." She reached for his hand, squeezing it with trembling fingers. "You gave it to yourself," she whispered. "We just reminded you who you were." Later that night, long after the crowd had left and the lights were dimmed, Benjamin stood once more on that quiet road in Oshodi. He didn't cry. He didn't speak. He simply stood in silence, remembering. Because sometimes the most extraordinary lives don't begin in palaces or mansions. Sometimes they begin with a broken wheelbarrow and a boy who refused to walk past. That if this story moved you, even a little, don't scroll past. Like if you believe kindness still matters. Comment if you know that one small action can change a life. Share this story so others remember that compassion is never wasted. Subscribe for more stories that reveal what happens when ordinary people choose to do the right thing. This isn't just fiction. It's a reminder. Every person you pass might be someone's second chance.